If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead no more than 10 minutes. Hello, welcome. It is predicted that President Trump will die from a heart attack on December 12th, 2024. It is also predicted that Trump's heart attack will be triggered by a directed energy weapon that will target Trump through Bluetooth technology. The components inside the pointy thing that Trump took will facilitate this, and it is believed that when Trump visited Biden at the White House, Trump's Bluetooth MAC address was obtained, which will be used to target Trump with a directed energy weapon. I am predicting that Vice President Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in St. Louis due to a bird strike into Busch Stadium. In the area code 314, it will be a burning bush, as described in Exodus 3:14, on December 24th, 2024. She will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and then Barack Obama will replace Michelle. I am predicting that dirty bombs will explode in Manhattan, New York City, and there will be a large-scale evacuation on December 16th. I am predicting that Israel will bomb Iran on December 17th. Israel will nuke and completely destroy Damascus, Syria on December 26th, 2024. On December 17th, 2024, it is predicted that the state legislatures in the swing states that are controlled by the Democrat Party will have their electors vote for Harris instead of Trump after his death. On this same day, December 17th, it is predicted that Joe Biden will become the first world leader to use an intercontinental ballistic missile in an act of war, and he will launch a ballistic missile into Iran. This will follow the predicted dirty bombs in New York City on December 16th. And the rocket into Iran will be a wag the dog event designed to distract from the electors in the swing states voting to make Kamala Harris the president-elect. It is predicted that on December 25th, Joe Biden will suffer a stroke. After Kamala Harris's predicted plane crash on December 24th and Joe Biden's predicted stroke on December 25th, it is predicted that on December 26th, Joe Biden will appoint Michelle Obama as the vice president, and then Biden will step down. Michelle Obama will appoint Barack Obama as the 51st vice president. On January 12th, 2025, Michelle Obama will step down, and Barack Obama will become the 48th president. His public inauguration ceremony will be on January 20th, 2025. I am predicting that former President Jimmy Carter will die on January 28th. It is predicted that the San Francisco 49ers will win the Super Bowl in 2025. The San Francisco 49ers will win the Super Bowl in the 6th plus 6th plus 6th state to join the Union on February 9th, 2025, and will become the third team to win 6 Super Bowls, which hints at 3 sixes. San Francisco points to Pope Francis, the first of 2 antichrists in Bible prophecy. It is predicted that on April 20th, 2025, there will be an outbreak of monkeypox or Marburg disease or both. April 20th will be a symbolic beginning to a new pandemic. June 8th, 2025, the true Feast of Pentecost in the calendar that watches for new moons, will be the day of the resurrection rapture event. It is predicted that on June 9th, the day after the rapture, the key will open the bottomless pit and fallen angels will cross over into the earthly realm. June 9th, will be a symbolic beginning to the fifth trumpet judgment that is described in Revelation chapter 9, when the demonic realm collides with the earthly realm. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to demons pretending to be aliens, and it is possible that June 9th will be the day Pope Francis will announce that aliens have arrived and have made him the ambassador for the world. This will immediately give Pope Francis, the Antichrist, supreme power over governments of the world. At some point, there will be a massive Mary apparition that will deceive the masses, because all Mary apparitions in history have been demons pretending to be Mary. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to a zombie pandemic and the masses becoming demonically possessed that will be facilitated through the thing, which is the mark of the Antichrist and 5G frequencies. June 9th will be a symbolic beginning to the coming genocide politicide in America. I am predicting that singer-songwriter Paul Simon will die on August 1st, 2025. It is predicted that on August 6th, 2025, the historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of the Niagara River for over 100 years will finally break free and crash over Niagara Falls. The reason for this is that Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism, and the barge was involved in the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, symbolic of Noah's Ark. Niagara in the native language means straight, narrow way, and Niagara's Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the CN Tower in downtown Toronto, because Toronto and its tower are symbolic of the Tower of Babel. In a game of horseshoes, the object is to aim the horseshoe and throw it at the metal stick, which is why the Horseshoe Falls is perfectly aimed at the metal stick that is the CN Tower. God is communicating that as testament for those who will live in the 1,000 years of Christ's reign on earth, the geography of North America will, as a result of a massive earthquake, be divided by a body of water from the Great Lakes to the Mississippi Delta. This destruction will be judgment on America and Canada for attempting to divide God's land, Israel. When this happens, the water in the Great Lakes will spill out over southern Ontario and Toronto. I am predicting that a solar flare will erupt on the surface of the sun and send a coronal mass ejection that will hit Earth on August 13th, 2025, which will knock out America's power grid and will lead to food shortages. The hit of the coronal mass ejection, predicted for August 13th, that will knock out the power grid will also knock many planes out of the sky. I am predicting that on August 23rd, 2025, there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit of Earth, which will trigger the eruption of Yellowstone volcano and will cause the volcano in the Canary Islands to collapse into the Atlantic Ocean and send a mega tsunami towards the east coast. The asteroid will also trigger a mega landslide on Hawaii Island that will trigger a mega tsunami that will hit the west coast. It will also trigger the collapse of the Hoover Dam, which will cause a water panic in California, and many other devastating earthquakes. The day of the Lord, the second coming of Lord Jesus Christ, Judgment Day, will be on the Day of Atonement, October 1st, 2025. The date that this video is posted proves that these predictions are being made ahead of time, as do these time-stamped emails and forensic notes PDF documents. If you are skeptical for some reason, please email me and I will forward these to you. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived, And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Make a note right now of these alternative platforms that you can find me on in case you can't find me later. All right, welcome. It is predicted that President Trump will die on December 12th, 2024, and it is predicted that it will be a murder. And I will prove this through this video. First of all, the video is being produced. Rather, this email that I'll be reading that makes this prediction was composed on October 5th, as we can see right here. And the date that this video was posted proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, as does the timestamped email and forensic notes PDF document. And when the prediction comes to pass, it will prove what I am saying. And this is the purpose of this prediction that is from God. Believe me, I know far better than you the reason and purpose for this prediction and why God has given me a voice through this prediction. It is to prove that not only is it known that Trump will die on December 12th, but that it will be a murder. Okay, and I will explain how this is known, and therefore when the prediction comes to pass, it means that the reasons for how this is known are true. That's the purpose of this prediction. That's the purpose of prophecy in the Bible. 1/3 of the Bible is prophecy for the purpose of proving it. The disciples knew or recognized that Jesus was the Messiah through his fulfillment of prophecy. For example, Jesus, for that matter, said, if you don't believe what I am saying, then believe the works. And so this is the nature of how this works. This is how prophecy works, and this is a prophecy, if you will. But the purpose of this is not just to simply have you think that this is neat, that God would let us know ahead of time. It is for the purpose of proving the things that God has been communicating through his big picture of signs that are revealing the date of this event. That's how it works. It's for the purpose of proving the things that I will be saying, in other words. Okay, so this is an amazing story because it involves the Pilgrims and the Mayflower, the spiritual founding of America. What I will also do is leave a link to a video of Jonathan Cahn in the description box below talking about this parallel between the Pilgrims' crossing of the Atlantic and the Israelites' crossing of the Jordan River into their promised land. The Pilgrims saw their crossing of the Atlantic and their escape from religious and political persecution to the New World as they're entering the promised land, just like the Israelites did after they crossed the desert and the Jordan River after escaping persecution in Egypt. And that was after 400 years of political persecution, or rather affliction in the Bible, as it says, and we are, or God is pointing to, or rather demonstrating, this parallel of 400 years from the time that the Pilgrims landed in November of 1620. And the escape from persecution from the king of Egypt is symbolism in the Bible for the persecution from the Antichrist. In other words, Egypt and the king of Egypt are symbolism for the Antichrist system, or rather Satan and the world, and the Antichrist system and the Antichrist. And so that's the reason for this 400 years and why God is about to destroy America as he promised he would. And I'll explain that. Because at the spiritual founding of America, 10 years after the Pilgrims came in 1620, was John Winthrop's flotilla of 11 ships. And before they disembarked, John Winthrop delivered his famous speech in which he spoke about the city on a hill, the shining city on a hill that the world would look to. And he derived his speech from Deuteronomy chapter 28, which is the chapter in the Bible in which Moses speaks for God and tells the Israelites his promises of blessings and curses, depending on whether or not they obey God's commandments or turn away from God. All right. Now, John Winthrop, the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, lived on Governor's Island, which today is the location of Logan Airport. John Winthrop led the 11-ship flotilla, and on 9/11, Flight 11 left Governor's Island and the airport and flew into the Twin Towers that looked like a giant 11 in New York State, the 11th state to join the Union. And in New York City, which is made of 11 letters, and that is because Jesus coined the phrase the 11th hour, which referred in ancient Israel to the last hour of daylight before darkness. Coincidentally, as I am speaking, it is that moment of the day right now. The sun has just set. So, or is setting, I'm not sure. But in English, the last hour, or the 11th hour, I should say, is an idiom that means last chance. Time is running out. As in the 9/11 warning being the last chance, time is running out for America to repent and turn back to God, or else judgment, destruction. Well, returning back to the subject here of this video, there is a very profound connection here, or prophetic signs that God has used to point to the coming death of Trump, which will be the last Trump sign. In archaic English, the word trump means trumpet, or the sounding of a trumpet, and Trump has been God's trumpet that he has been using to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs. When the Israelites crossed into the promised land, they took Jericho and enacted a symbolic 3 sets of 7 before they blew trumpets, and then the walls of security collapsed in God's judgment. That's why Trump's election campaigns and his election in 2000, his presidency were synonymous with his border wall of security that has collapsed since he left office. On his inauguration day, he was 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days old. This was 73 days, which hints at 3 sets of 7 after he was elected by 77 electoral votes. And that day was exactly 73 weeks, which hints at 3 sets of 7 after the symbolic beginning of Trump when he famously descended the golden escalator in his Trump Tower in New York City, as in the Twin Towers. That day was exactly 188 months after the 7.0 earthquake in Joshua Tree, California, and the Israelites, when the walls of security collapsed after their 3 sets of 7, were led by Joshua. The 188 months, because 188 in the Hebrew concordance, the H188 word is the word that means woe, exclamation mark, used in the Bible in the context of extreme judgment from God. Okay, so, yes, Trump is the trumpet, and his death will be the last trump sign, a play on the phrase that Paul used in the Bible, the last trump, at the time of the end. After turning around at what today is called Martha's Vineyard due to deadly seas. Okay, so the seas were shallow and the seas were rough. The Pilgrims' journey across the Atlantic took an astounding 66 days, far longer than they anticipated. And they suffered greatly due to it, and they were blown far off course. They were destined for Virginia. They were blown far north off of their course and ended up off the coast of New England, and then came around Cape Cod and were decided to turn around after the shallow shoals of the area around Martha's Vineyard, deeming it to be too dangerous. And they took shelter in Cape Cod in the bay. And that was designed by God, which is why Cape Cod, incidentally, geographically, the geography of the peninsula looks like a fishing hook, because God hooked them, and in the Bible, fish are symbolic of his church. This is the age of fishing for men. And America was set up as God's Gentile nation, his nation of Christian disciples. That's why the Mayflower and the Pilgrims, they were devoutly religious, and they came to the New World specifically because of their faith. And because they wanted to have a fresh start of a new society that was dedicated to Christ. Okay, and that's what God is pointing to through all of this. Now, so the Pilgrims actually made it to Martha's Vineyard and then turned around because of the shallow, deadly seas. And the Pilgrims first anchored in the New World off Cape Cod on November 21st, 1620. William Bradford became the first governor of the Plymouth colony. I should emphasize Bradford, okay, as you'll see in a minute. Exactly 402 years after the Pilgrims anchored, and along with William Bradford, signed the Mayflower Compact, because the day they anchored was the day they signed the Mayflower Compact, which was the prototype for the Constitution, the semi-sacred document that America is founded on. It goes back to the Mayflower Compact. This very important moment in history. And that was the day that they anchored, which was exactly 402 years before Bradley Raine, as in William Bradford, this guy Bradley Raine drove his SUV into an Apple store. I don't know if it was an SUV. I think it might have been a big pickup truck. Anyway, he drove it into the Apple store off of Pilgrims Highway in Plymouth County in Massachusetts. Of course, the Pilgrims set up in Plymouth, Massachusetts. That, by the way, is an amazing coincidence that reveals that their journey was designed by God, because it's a coincidence that they left Plymouth, England, and they didn't mean to. They sprang a leak in one of their 2 ships and returned twice to Plymouth, but they didn't depart originally from Plymouth. And they bought their plot of land from a company named Plymouth. And then when they arrived in Massachusetts, which wasn't their destination, they chose an area to settle that was already named Plymouth by a previous cartographer a couple of years earlier. Okay, so that's the big coincidence there. And so anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in for you, because you probably haven't heard that before. So anyway, the Apple Store, though, this national news story, when the guy drove his vehicle into the Apple Store, it was off of Pilgrims Highway in Plymouth County in Massachusetts on the exact 402nd year anniversary of the Mayflower anchoring off Cape Cod. Okay, and that day, which was November 22nd, 2022, was exactly 22 weeks after the crash. Exactly 22 weeks after the crash, Bradley Rain pleaded not guilty to 22 counts of assault with a deadly weapon and 1 count of murder for the death of Kevin Bradley on April 24th, 23. Okay, so at first he wasn't being charged with murder, but then the charges were changed, and then he had to go to court to make his plea regarding the changed charges, which included, because the prosecution didn't believe his story regarding him accidentally stepping on the pedal and all that. So he was charged with murder, and so he went into court to make his plea regarding it. And that's also why it's relevant, because that's the story. You know, did he do it by accident or not? So it's a part of the story of Bradley Rain here, and so that's why the day he made his plea months later is important. Okay? It was also 22 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, and that's why it was exactly 22 weeks. But there's more, because, as I'll explain to the number 22. Okay. So the name Bradley hints at Bradford. The weapon that killed and injured the people in the Apple Store was a 4x4 vehicle called a Forerunner. This hints at the 400 years since the spiritual founding of the nation with the Mayflower and America's judgment and destruction through the 44th president, the Antichrist. The exact 22 years in between the crash that injured 22 people in the Apple Store and the 22 charges, the plea to the 22 charges, hints at the mark of the Antichrist things, the pointy things, that will be enforced through cell phones, Apple phones, and digital payment, the Apple Wallet. This 22 weeks is also 5 months and 3 days, and the accused Bradley Rain was 53 years old. The reciprocal of 53 is 0.1123, and 1,123 is the 188th prime number, and as I mentioned a minute ago, H188 is the word that means whoa, exclamation mark, as in the context of extreme judgment from God on America that God warned of through the Pilgrims and the Puritans and John Winthrop, as I explained. Now, the reason why 22 is symbolic of the mark of the Antichrist is because the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist described in the book of Ezekiel would have been a Tav letter, a Tav mark, which in ancient Hebrew was an X. And X's are symbolic of chromosomes, which are what are changed through the mark of the Antichrist. A chromosome is made of 2 arms, and a pair of chromosomes, which is what they come in, is 2 and 2 arms, so 2 and 2. Also in the incident, in the crash, it was 22 injured and 1 killed for a total of 23. And there are 23 pairs of chromosomes. Also, the Tav mark is the last and 22nd letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and the mark of the Antichrist is described in the last book of the Bible, which is the 22nd book out of 22 books in the Bible that have a total of 22 chapters. Okay. At the time of Bradley Rain's plea of not guilty, the judge ordered him to wear a GPS ankle bracelet, tracking bracelet, so he could be tracked. Later in 2023, police visited Bradley Rain on multiple occasions because his bracelet was turned off and probation officers could not track him. He was arrested and was sent to a mental health institute for a period. This is a prophetic sign that communicates that the dissidents of the Antichrist regime and those who will refuse the mark of the Antichrist will be confined and tracked. You know what I'm talking about, right? The mark of the Antichrist is the get-out-of-jail-free card that everyone is by default in. You know what I'm talking about. What happened in a couple of years ago, right? Which, by the way, was in 2020, 2-2. And so we have more to this because, of course, the Apple phones are about tracking or hinting at that, and I'm going to explain more about that. But we have more to the story because the story of this guy that crashed into the Apple store is about tracking him, right? Which is more confirmation of the symbolism of the Apple store. Okay, so the dissidents will include God's church, but it won't only be God's church. There will be other people that aren't going to make it to the kingdom and are still with Satan that do not go along with the mark of the Antichrist and are dissidents. They need to quickly, hopefully, prayerfully, we pray that they wake up because they're, in a way, on our team, but they need to wake up. There are plenty of people that are in this camp, New Agers, people that have some sense of spirituality, because in general, the camps broke into those that are materialists, as they say, positivists, and those that have some sort of spiritual meaning in their life. They were able to see through the propaganda and the hypnotism and the lies. But that includes many people that aren't with Christ. So anyway, I thought I'd clarify that. So the dissidents will include God's church, but will not only be made up of God's church. And furthermore, that's also past tense, current tense, present tense, and future tense. And the number 50 is symbolic of God's church. The 50th prime number is 229. 2 months and 29 days after Bradley Rain's plea to 22 assault charges, and the day that was the day that Obama murdered his, 2 months and 2 months and 29 days after Bradley Rain's plea to 22 assault charges and 1 count of murder was the day that Obama murdered his chef on Martha's Vineyard. The chef drowned in a shallow tidal pool, seawater. The Pilgrims turned around at Martha's Vineyard due to the dangerous shallow sea. Okay? This 2 months and 29 days is also 2,160 hours, and Obama was born on the 216th day of the year, and 216 is 6 times 6 times 6, the number of the Antichrist. Also, the name Barak is equal to 216 in English gematria. This 2,160 hours is also 90 days. The ninth triangular number is 45, and the reciprocal of 45 is 0.022, which hints at the mark of the Antichrist. And Obama's chef was 45 years old. So this is why it is 90 days from 22 charges of assault and a charge of murder to the murder of Obama's chef, who was 45 years old. It's amazing, right? Because again, he's 45 and it's 22 charges, and the 90 days connects them both, and 45 is the ninth triangular number, and 45, the reciprocal of it, is 22. It's amazing. That's amazing. I hope you got that. 22 charges plus 90 days to 45-year-old, and 22 is a hint at 45, and so is 9. Okay. Obama's murdered chef is symbolism for the food that God's church and others will not be permitted to buy or sell for refusing to take the mark of the Antichrist thing, which is symbolized by the number 22. Again, 45 equals 0.22 or 0.022. Okay? So yes, Bible prophecy is clear on this. There will be the restriction from buying and selling food, and that will be the rationed food, because of the coming food shortage crisis, will be allotted to the good citizens, the proper citizens, the upstanding citizens, the respectable citizens, not the deplorables, as Hillary Clinton put it, not the garbage that the way Biden put it, right? Yes, that's what is coming, the rationing of food. That's why the symbolism in the man that Obama murdered being a chef. Obama murdered him because he had a gay relationship with the man. That's why the man was discovered naked when he was found at the bottom of the shallow water. All right. And that's also the reason for the flip-flopping of the story as to whether Obama was at Martha's Vineyard at the time. They changed their story because they weren't sure what to do at first. By the way, that's not the first murder Obama is guilty of. He murdered his other gay lover that was at his church in Chicago. That's a fact. The predictions being made in this video will prove this. But also, just ask the man's mother, who is a respectable person who retired from the police department. Okay? Someone who works at the police department is not someone who is, not going to make stuff up. But anyway, we don't need, okay, fine, it says mother, but there's all kinds of other evidence that this is actually the case. Okay. In turn, the murder of Obama's 45-year-old chef connects to the date it is predicted that Obama will murder the 45th president. Okay, so this is not correct. I think something will happen on January 1st, but let's just skip that. Okay. Now, I was originally thinking that, so God is communicating that this will come about, this murder of Trump, through Bluetooth technology and a directed energy weapon. And it was speculated that the obtainment of Trump's Bluetooth MAC address, which is what every person who has taken the thing has because of the components inside the thing that give off the signal for this, it was speculated that the address for Trump's MAC address, Bluetooth MAC, would be obtained at the funeral, but now it is believed that God has revealed that this actually happened when Trump visited Biden at the White House. Okay. Obama's murder of his chef in shallow seawater on Martha's Vineyard was 90 days after Bradley Rain pleaded to his charge of murder of Kevin Bradley and 22 other charges of attempted murder. Rather, it's assault with a deadly weapon. Okay, the 9 and 22 are paired together to confirm the signs and connections because the inverse of the mark of the Antichrist is described in Ezekiel chapter 9, and it would have been a Tav mark, which is the 22nd letter of the alphabet, as I explained. Okay, and in the Plymouth Apple store. As explained, this pointed back to William Bradford and the Pilgrims and their decision to turn around at Martha's Vineyard before settling in Plymouth. The plea to murder and 22 charges was exactly 22 weeks after Rain crashed his 4x4 which is the 44th president, into the Apple Store. God pairs 9 and 44, by the way, because the 44th president was inaugurated in 09. That confirms the signs and connections. And this is how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works, which is only being explained on this channel. It works on the principle of second and third and multiple witnesses confirming a matter, as the Bible says is required. And this is what makes what is being explained on this channel true and not a product of one's imagination, and different and unique than everything else on the internet that claims to be an analysis of God's prophetic signs. And if we think about it, one simple way in which God would provide a second witness for us is through pairing certain numbers together, such as 9 and 44. Because of what I just said. And I know this because I've been studying his big picture of signs from morning until night for more than full-time hours for 7 years. And so again, we have the 22 weeks from the crash to the plea to the 22 charges. And then we have 90 days to from the plea to the charges that were made by the 22 charges of assault with a deadly weapon, which was the 4x4, comparing with 90, with the number 9. 22 and 44 pair with 9, as I have explained now. But also, and that's 90 days to the murder of the chef. Now, 90 days is also 2,160 hours, and the name Barak is equal to 216 in simple, English gematria. Barak was born on the 216th day of the year. From the murder of Obama's chef on July 23rd, 2023, it was exactly 2 times 30 weeks to the attempted murder of Trump on the golf course in the 9 plus 9 plus 9th state. God repeats a number 3 times for emphasis of its symbolic meaning. The number 9 is the most important number in God's big picture of signs, which is only being explained on this channel. As from the Bible, it symbolizes God's judgment. So we have the 90 days to the 9 plus 9 plus 9th state involving Trump, God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet and highlight his prophetic signs. But the numbers that God pairs are 9, 44, and 23. He pairs other numbers too, but these are really the biggest ones of all, if you will. And that's because the basketball president who wore 23 was inaugurated in 09, the 44th president. 2 times 30 weeks exactly hints at the number 23. And so, in other words, following the 90 days, we have another connection, which is 2 times 30 weeks, which hints at 23, to the 9 plus 9 plus 9th golf course in the 9 plus 9 plus 9th state, and that also pairs with the 23 here, with the 2 times 30 weeks. Okay, the 90 days and 9 plus 9 plus 9th state pair with the 2 times 30 weeks. This is also 60 weeks, and the shooter was hiding on the green of the 6th hole, or just behind the 6th hole, and agents shot at him 6 times. 60 weeks is also 420 days. A minute ago, we were talking about the 402nd anniversary of the Mayflower. 422 days also hints at 42 months of the Antichrist in Bible prophecy. 42 months in Bible prophecy is 1,260 days, and 2,160 hours is an anagram for this. Okay? Because again, the 420 days is preceded by 2,160 hours, and 420 hints at the 1,260 days, which is an anagram for 2,160. Trump's chef was 45 years old, and the shooter was 54 years old. That's a play on them. That's confirmation. There's also reason or significance for 54 because God is using the 54th Massachusetts Regiment. Oh, I just realized that. This is all connecting to Massachusetts, and the golf course is on the East Coast, as is Massachusetts. And, wow, because of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, oh, wow, wow, wow. This is massive confirmation of everything that I'm saying. God is using the 54th Massachusetts Regiment theme in his signs because they were unfairly paid. They were the first black regiment in the Civil War, which hints at the first black president. And it also hints at this theme in the Bible of slavery and freedom, which is this theme of life and what we are talking about, which is this coming restriction of buying and selling food, and begins with a lock, ends with a downs, and all that, right? And the totalitarianism that we experienced a couple of years ago. and that they're still trying to perpetrate. And upcoming totalitarianism. Well, anyway, that's also the theme in this Civil War theme, right? The slavery, the abolishment of slavery, etc. Well, anyway, the Massachusetts Regiment, the first black regiment in the Civil War, was unfairly paid due to official policy from Washington. It was an oppressive minority law, as in the oppressive minority law that will be the mandating of the thing, or rather the restricting of food to only those who take the thing. And so that's the parallel, but also they were unfairly paid, which is pointing to how the food will be rationed and the restriction on buying and selling food in the oppressive minority law. It will be through the restriction of bank accounts, which is, for example, the reason for the Canadian trucker prophecy and their closing of bank accounts in Canada, the 51st state. Obama will become the 51st vice president. And but anyway, that's why 54 here, because that's what we're talking about. This all connected through Obama's chef, which hinted at the food, and it also hints to Massachusetts, which is the home of the 54th Massachusetts Regiment. It's amazing. It's amazing. Okay. Okay. So 45 is the 9th triangular number, and this pairs with 2 times 30 weeks. Okay, that's another confirmation, another second witness. This 60 weeks is also 1 year, 1 month, and 23 days, which hints at 1,123, which is the 188th prime number. And as I mentioned, H188 is the word woe, exclamation mark, used in the context of extreme judgment from God. Yes, that's amazing. I love that. I love that. The 54, the age of the shooter, confirms everything, because it all connects to the 45-year-old chef was murdered in Massachusetts, furthermore, right? And then that connected, as I explained, to the Plymouth Apple Store crash in Massachusetts, in Plymouth County, off of Pilgrims Highway, on the 402nd anniversary, which is why the 422 days, to the 54-year-old shooting. Oh, it's so amazing. It's so amazing. This is 100% true. Okay, the prediction hasn't come to pass yet, but I can tell you this is 100% true, what I am saying. In turn, the assassination attempt of Trump, the name Trump in simple English gematria, A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, is equal to 88. Okay, Donald J. Trump is equal to 888 in gematria. Well, the assassination attempt of Trump on September 15th, 2024, is 88 days to Trump's predicted death on December 12th. The story of the assassination attempt is how the shooter was at his sniper spot for 12 hours. Okay, and how did they know that? Through tracking him. Through his phone, as in the Apple Store. By the way, 88 days is also 2 times 44 days, and that hints at the second presidency for the 44th president, which will come about as a result of Trump's death. Because after his death, the state legislatures in the blue states, in the swing states that are controlled by the blue team, will elect as the president-elect Kamala Harris, and then she is predicted to die in a plane crash on the 24th. Biden will replace her with Michelle Obama, and Michelle Obama will be made the temporary president. Biden will step down after having a stroke, and then she will appoint Barack Obama as her vice president, and then she will step down in January, making Barack Obama the 48th president. Now, also, 12 days after Trump's predicted death on 12/12 is the predicted date of Kamala Harris's plane crash. Another reason for the 12 hours connection from the shooter waiting for Trump for 12 hours to the date, and then it connecting to the date 12/12, which in turn connects with 12 days. All right. So therefore, the spiritual founding of America connects to Trumpet's predicted death and the last Trump sign. The beginning to the end, the last Trump. Before we get into the final year of destruction that will follow the 7 years of prophetic signs. And for those that know what I'm talking about, that these 7 years that ended this year are the 7 years in Daniel chapter 9. Case closed throughout the timelines. It's not true. I'm sorry. It was for those who were watching to recognize, and the majority of people were not watching the signs, and those that were thinking that they were watching and paying attention to these sort of timelines weren't really watching. They had a closed mind as to what could constitute a prophetic sign. I know people that, for example, only believe that a prophetic sign can occur in the night sky, just for example. They've missed the vast majority of the signs. And so anyway, we had 7 years of signs. That's the Daniel chapter 9. And there's this principle in the Bible of a seventh period followed by an eighth, the eighth year of destruction, which, by the way, is why Trump will die at the age of 78. God's trumpet. Trump will be trumpeting, at his death will be trumpeting at the end of 2024 at the age of 78. 7 years of prophetic signs that began in 2017 when he became president, followed by an eighth year of destruction. He'll be trumpeting the destruction, just like the Israelites trumpeted before the walls of security collapsed. And they trumpeted with one long last trumpet blast, incidentally, which is also why Trump and his last Trump sign before the year of destruction, 2025. Before the Lord's return at the end of 2025, coinciding with the fall feasts. For those that know what I'm talking about. As well, the chef is food symbolism, and the Apple Store, which, by the way, is food symbolism too. By the way, the first Apple computer sold for $666.66. As well, the chef is food symbolism, and the Apple Store is cell phone tracking symbolism. Again, the shooter was known to have spent 12 hours at his location due to tracking him through his cell phone. Additionally, the story of the shooter is how authorities were able to track his phone as being at the location for 12 hours. This points to the rationing of food to only those who take the mark of the Antichrist enforced through their cell phones and tracking them. The 22 charges hint at the mark that is symbolized by the number 22. This also confirms that Trump will be murdered through a directed energy weapon that will target him through the components in the thing that he took and Bluetooth technology, as I explained. Well, I haven't explained much about the evidence in God's signs regarding the revelation that God is pointing to regarding Bluetooth, but that will be in another video. The chef was 45 and Trump is the 45th president. The chef was murdered at Martha's Vineyard in shallow seawater. The pilgrims turned around at Martha's Vineyard because of deadly shallow seawater. Okay, so this is an amazing thing. When this prediction comes to pass, make sure that you share this video to those Christians. I would like to remind you of Ezekiel chapter 3 and 33. Read those and find out what happens to those that are the watchers that do not warn the people. Okay, that's a contradiction on once saved, always saved in itself, but so is Matthew 25 and the parable of the bags of gold. When Jesus spoke to Christians. And the Christian that did nothing with their bag of gold was banished to hell. There was a warning. So much for once saved, always saved again. You can find a contradiction. You can find a contradiction to once saved, always saved on pretty much, and that whole Reformed theology nonsense on pretty much every page or every other page in the Bible, and especially in the New Testament. And so, anyway, this video is a massive bag of gold. Nothing compares to this in terms of an evangelical tool. And so don't ever stop sharing the link to this video or another video on this channel And don't only share it in the places that you normally visit, place the link in places you never go, on the other team's sites, for example. Let's try to save some people. And also, if you would like the file for the flyer I hand out, because maybe you think you are watching too many videos or spending too much time watching videos, because in the time of watching a video, you could potentially help hundreds of people with my flyer. And now is not the time to hand out the typical evangelical tracts, which are largely based in error anyway. Now is the time to hand out my flyer because it has the information that people need right now. For one thing, leads people to the channel where they can see the predictions being made. But it has all sorts of amazing information, essential information, all kinds of it that people really need right now. I highly recommend my flyer. If you would like the file for it that you can give to your printer, please contact me. You can hand them out on busy street corners and car windshields and busy parking lots and in mailboxes. And also you can put them in your pocket and hand them out as you go about your day, when you're waiting in line at the bank or in the grocery store. And if you are shy, I have something to say. Get over it. Courage isn't a lack of fear, it's action in spite of it, and God wants us to be courageous. All right, God bless. All right, here is a diagram that shows this timeline here. I think this helps some people visually. It helps to just visualize it. We had the 22 injured, 22 weeks, 5 months, 3 days. Bradley Rain, 53 years old, 22 charges, his plea. Okay, again, this was the 402nd anniversary of the Mayflower. All right, and then it's 90 days, which is 2,160 hours, which hints at Obama because his name equals 216 and he was born on the 216th day of the year. This was the day that Obama's chef was murdered by Obama at the age of 45. That pairs, because it's the ninth triangular, pairs the 90 days, pairs also with the 2 times 30 weeks, as does the 90 days pair with the 2 times 30 weeks, which is also 420 days. And again, that's a hint at 1,260 days, because of the 42 months in Bible prophecy. So that gives us that. And then again, it's 1 year, 1 month, 23 days, which hints at the 188th prime number. Whoa, exclamation mark. Gets us, anyway, the 60 weeks gets us to the 6th hole, 6 shots, Trump. And then he is 88, his name, and that's why 88 days to Trump's death. It was 12 hours that he spent at the hole. It gets us to the date 12/12, which is also 12 days to Harris's predicted crash. And again, Trump will be murdered, and it'll be through his cell phone and technology and a directed energy weapon. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the BitChute.com or the Odyssey.com channel. And do it now in case you aren't able to later.